we are going to make Christmas pins. Now what we do for this assignment is we create these Christmas pins or winter pins. If you don't celebrate Christmas, they can just be general winter pins. But we create these pins and then we make 8 of them, and we paint them and we give them to the teachers as a gift. Let me show you a few of these. I've got several here for you to look at. I want to show you the good ones and the bad ones because sometimes there are bad ones. So the objective is to create pins. You have to create 8 pins and they have to be a set. A set meaning that they all have to look like they belong together. That means that you cannot make like a Christmas tree and a snowman and a wreath and a Santa Claus. You can't do all those. They all have to be linked together somehow. Okay, so let me show you an example of some. These are 2 that someone created, some Santa Clauses, and you can see that they are both Santa Claus, but they look a little bit different, and that's okay. So each of theirs is going to be like a Santa Claus. These right here are elves, okay, and they created them all elves. You'll notice they made different designs and they painted them a little bit differently, but all of their 8 were elves. Okay, this right here is a character from the Peanuts cartoons, and I had one student make all the faces of the Peanuts cartoons, and that's perfectly okay also. This person made Christmas trees, and each of their pins were only Christmas trees, and that's good also. So let's talk about some of these. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones, and you can take a look. First of all, we have to think about size when we do these pins. We want to make the size big enough that we can get the pin on there, but small enough that it's not so huge that it's going to, pull their shirt down. You don't want that to happen. Okay, so it has to be about this size. So the size varies depending on the shape. This one is a pretty good size. I would say it's probably about 1.25 inches wide, but you can't really go by the measurement because it can be deceiving when you do that. And let me get a ruler out and show you how big this is. Okay, so this is about 1.5 inches wide. So this is a pretty good size. This one here is a little bit big, and you can see the height on this is like 3 inches. 1.5 inches wide is fine, but 3 inches is just a little bit too big. Okay, so the size of this really matters. It can't be too big, can't be too small. Look at this one right here. It's like a little ornament, and it's really cool. I like the texture. It's sculptural, but it is way too small. There's no way we can put a pin on here, and it's way too heavy. It's too thick and it's too heavy. So even though I like these, we just can't use them as pins because of the size. It's too small and it's too thick. Here's another small one that's really pushing the limit. I couldn't get the whole pin back on here without you seeing it because it's too small. So I like the idea. It's like a mug of like hot chocolate or some steam coming off, and they've got little sculptural things on each of them that were a little bit different, but it's a little bit too small. And look how thick it is. It really is too thick. We don't want it to be that thick. Okay, it's too heavy. It's too small, but it's too heavy. Here's another one that is not finished that I thought was really cool, but it is too heavy and it's too small. And again, that's the case with some of these, that they just don't think about the size when they're making it. I love the way it looks. It's sculptural, it's rounded, there's lots of various levels on here, and it's got some texture, and I really love it, but we can't use it because it's too small and it's too thick. Here's one that is a little bit older. It looks like it's kind of yellowing. But I like this one here. It has a good size. It looks like I got some hot glue on here. It's a good size. It has various levels. It's pretty thin. You see how thin it is. And you can see how it was made. They made it with a little circle of clay, and then they added the hat onto it, and then on the back they just kind of blended it in. The nose is sticking up and right here, and it looks like the eyes, they either took a little marker or they took a little paint to make the eyes. It would have been nice to have the mouth on here too. They put some texture on the ball on the cap. This is raised up, so I like this for a lot of reasons. It's sculptural, it's the right size, it's the right thickness. So this would be a good one. I think it could be better. I think more white on the instead of more yellow, and a mouth on there would have been good. And this really, I think, is really kind of neat. Okay. Here's another interesting one here. It is a cat with a hat. Okay, and it's supposed to be Christmas related or winter related. So it would have been kind of neat if they would have put a little bit of holly up here. The thickness is pretty good. You know, maybe it might be a little thick here if they would have thinned that down a little bit. It looks like a slab. It's very flat. You need to round these things, round this, round the edges here, round this, instead of making it look like you put a slab on top of a slab. We don't want to do that. Okay? Here's a little pig that kind of did the same thing where they made the pig and they wanted to make it a little bit Christmassy, and that's fine. But if you look at this one again, it's cut out really roughly. It's not smooth. It's not rounded over. This looks like, again, like a slab on top of a slab, and that's not what we want. Okay, we want it to look rounded, sculptural, not where we layered slabs on top of each other. I really do like this one. It's got an interesting texture to it. I like the way it's painted. It's really interesting. It's not too thick. It's not bad. It's a little bit thick, but not too thick. It's a good size, and this one is a nice one here. These right here weren't very popular with the teachers, and I'm not sure exactly why. I love the texture here. Maybe it was, I don't know, this was really sticking up high. If they would have made the beard a little bit lower level, maybe it would be a little bit better, but it wasn't very popular, and not a lot of these were taken. I like the leg lamp, really kind of funny. The problem with this, it's still very much like a slab. They put a little bit, these lines here are raised up, so that's kind of really hard to do. A lot of times when I have these really fine lines, I'll have them just paint them and not worry about making them sculptural, but it's still a very flat slab. If they could have done a little bit more rounding, I think it would have been better at various levels, but I like the idea. And kind of hard to get a pin on here because it's really thin. You might see it. I had some people make like snow globes, which was kind of neat. These could have been a little bit more rounded, but this is raised up here. The snow is raised up. They did some carving here, and I thought that was really good, and it's a good size and a good thickness. Here's one I kind of like. It's like a sweater. They did all sweaters, and I thought that was kind of neat. I think it could be crafted a little bit better, and they did raise this up and put some texture here, but maybe this little stripe, instead of carved in, it should have been raised up. You know, maybe they could have put something down here. I think it could be improved, but I really like the idea. This one I thought was super cool, but way, way too heavy. And that's part of the problem. You can't have it that heavy. Maybe if they had sliced off the whole back of it and just had the front, it would have been okay. It's a little bit small. It was very hard to get, and I got a very little pin on there, but it was still hard to get the pin on there. And these didn't prove to be very popular, I think, because they were so heavy. Here's one that is kind of neat, a little angel. They rounded the head. This is rounded here, and they built up right here where the arms are, and then they added a little bit of wire to the back to make the halo, and I thought that was really kind of neat. Here's another kitty cat, and they put them on a wreath, and that's kind of a way to make it look more Christmassy. It's a little bit small, and it looks a little bit more like a slab, so be careful about making it very flat. Try to really sculpt it and make it rounded. I do like it though. I think it's pretty neat. I have some that are unfinished that I thought you could look at. And this one right here is Cindy Lou Who, and this is a little bit on the big side. There's some areas that are not very raised up. It's just, I mean, it's curved over, but it's not like raised up different levels. And this one right here, they just took a little fine marker. They painted it and put a little marker to draw the face on, and it looks like it blurred a little bit. So that one's pretty neat. Here's another one. You saw I had the Cold Miser here. So this is not done, but this one was done. So it's almost there. Very sculptural. The nose, the mouth, the hair, the ears, all built up and is much more sculptural. Good thickness to it. So this one will be good when it's done painted. I really like it. And you all know this is Jack Skellington here. You'll notice that there are 7 pins and they all look like they belong together. You have to do something that all matches. So you have to pick a theme and stick with that theme. These are really well done. There are multiple levels. They're painted nicely. They did shading around the edges. They painted black in the low areas and some white on top of that. So they're painted really nicely. Let me show you some other examples. And this is what we're doing. We're making these pens, and I've got the whole process step by step what you need to do. But what I wanted to show you are some examples down here. These are just winter pens. Same for this right here. Some of them have some holiday stuff on there, but they're basically winter pens. Snowmen here, those are basically also winter pens, and they don't have to be Christmas pens. So if you do not celebrate Christmas, you don't have to do Christmas pens. You can do something else. Maybe Hanukkah or something, some other religious holiday is perfectly fine. I want to show you also some other examples, and I know this picture isn't a very clear picture, but you get the idea of what's going on here. We've got a group of a reindeer here, some Santas, some snowmen, some stockings, the hats, penguins, more hats over here, some elves. And so you can kind of see that everyone picked their theme and then they made their pins to fit into that theme. So those are all some good examples, and you can always look at the web page, but I wanted to show you the rubric really quickly so you can see what the rubric looked like. The rubric basically has 5 different criteria. Is it sculptural? Rounded edges, more levels? Is it painted well? Is it difficult to do? Did it take time? Is it crafted well? And then did you meet the requirements? Smooth, correct number, same theme, correct size, the pin will fit, and the correct thickness. Okay, so that's what the rubric looks like. I want to show you another thing here, and this gives you an idea of how you'll be graded. These are pretty much from A to F. Excellent would be one that is sculptural and is high difficulty, detailed, well painted, correct thickness and size, interesting and well crafted. Maybe they have more levels, but they're not as difficult. Maybe they're painted pretty well, but maybe not painted as well as the excellent ones. The fine or average ones would be more like C's, and they're more flat. Painted well still, a little less interesting. The poor ones usually are painted poorly. Hopefully they have the correct size and thickness, but the craftsmanship is not good. Maybe it's too flat. And then the very bad ones, you will notice it looks like they made them all in 10 minutes. Usually it takes, you make about 2 of these in a class period. So it does take a little bit of time. And these are not very interesting. They're painted poorly. They don't have much detail. It might be too simple, too big, or too little, too thick, or too thin, something like that. So that's what the grades will look like. So you can go ahead and get started on your Christmas winter pins, and hopefully they're beautiful. Remember that we will be giving these to the teachers, and it's quite an event. Some teachers have come down and gotten these every single year, some of them for 30 years, and they're really excited to run down and get these pins. Okay, good luck, and we'll get going.